What we're going to discuss today are some concepts around better IT asset management. My name is Stacy Jones. I work as a consultant for RightStar Systems, and I'll be walking you through this webinar. I'm going to take a few minutes just to go over a few slides, and then we'll go into the demonstration. So as today is a conversation around footprints, service desk or footprints maybe in your environment today, we're talking about how you can utilize the other footprints product called Asset Core to do end-to-end asset management. And when I say end-to-end asset management, really what we're talking about is the cradle-to-grave life cycle that an asset is going to go through in your environment. So that involves things like bringing that asset into the environment. Could be that you need to deploy the OS. Sometimes the OS comes already installed on the box. But then doing those day-to-day tasks like inventory, ensuring that you maintain the latest and greatest hardware, software inventory of that machine or of that device, doing software updates, doing patch updates, and again, following that with another inventory to ensure that your repository has the latest and greatest information on that device. At the end of that asset's life cycle, it may be that in your environment you sell that asset off. It could be that it was on a lease and you need to return it, or it could be that you're donating that hardware. Those are all aspects that you can perform with the Asset Core solution. So that's what we'll be looking at today. I'm going to bring up this graphic so you can see really at the core of any type of asset management is that inventory. It's important that it's accurate because that data is utilized by any of the other functions that you may need to perform on that asset. So if you kind of look at this wheel of life, the discovery, the configuration is kind of at the forefront. As time goes on, again, the day-to-day task, there's going to be some security aspects that need to be in place. It could be compliance as it pertains to software. It could be patching that device again to make sure that it has the latest updates so that you have no holes or vulnerabilities in your environment, the delivery of software, and then again, finally retiring that asset. Financial asset information is going to be critical as well, the depreciation of that asset. So again, these are all concepts that are going to be covered for you in the Asset Core solution. Now, at the forefront, when you receive a device, there's multiple ways to get that device into your system, so into the CMDB. I'm mentioning ScanStar here just so you are aware that RightStar has a product called ScanStar, and what it is a piece of software that you're putting on your barcode solution, your scanning device, that's going to allow you to, for any device coming into your environment that has a barcode, you're going to be able to scan those barcodes and receive those assets into your inventory. You'll see on the screen there the ability to receive. So again, that's receiving the assets, tracking those assets as they move from location to location, and then finally the verification. So verifying or doing an audit, if you will, of that particular asset in its current state. But again, ScanStar is going to be a way for you to import assets into your repository. Another way that you can import those assets is going to be through the use of an integration engine. So that will enable you to connect to other data sources and bring that data, those assets, into the CMDB or again into that Footprint Service Core repository. And then, of course, the third way, which is what we're going to focus on today, is Asset Core. And with Asset Core, I'm still able to do a discovery, but for those devices that I need to perform end-to-end asset management on, I'm placing an agent so that we can see that device and then, again, perform whatever corrective actions are necessary. So at this point, let me go ahead and share out my screen. What we're going to delve into first is Service Core. So at the core, we're talking to a footprints audience. We're assuming most of you have footprints installed in your environment. What we're looking at here is Service Core. Now, you'll see a couple things here. This is the utility that's going to allow me to enter tickets against the assets in my environment. I think of this as the configuration management. As such, you'll notice here on the right, I have my configuration management database. So this is, again, where all your assets reside, whether you have brought them in with ScanStar, with that integration engine, or through Asset Core. But what you'll end up with are all the assets that you need to perform some type of management on. So you can see there from my list, I have desktops, laptops, network devices, printers, etc. Once I have my devices in here, the next step that people usually take is entering some type of ticket. And so what I'm going to do is scroll down the list, and we'll see that I have several incidents available to me. I'm just going to open one that we have available. It's 5254. And what I've gone into is the asset information here on the left. So all the information that we're seeing is gleaned from Asset Core. So I perform the inventory. This information is available to me. When you link Service Core with Asset Core, what you'll end up with is the ability to go to Asset Core right from that ticket. And this is going to be one of the differences when compared to utilizing a third-party asset management tool. If I'm utilizing, let's say, SCCM, the Microsoft Configuration Management, all that's going to allow me to do or bring in the assets from SCCM. If I need to perform an action on them, deliver software, deliver a patch, I would have to leave Service Core, go into that tool, and perform the action. With Asset Core, I'm able to perform any of the functions right from the ticket. So what we'll do is show you here as an example some of the asset information that we can see, and then what I'm going to do is switch into Asset Core so you can see basically what I'm able to seed or populate inside of Asset Core that then becomes available inside of Service Core to do that end-to-end asset management. So here really quickly, I'll just hit the View Asset Summary, and what this is bringing up is a detailed hardware, software information, that accurate inventory for this particular device. And what we're able to see here at the very top is some good summary information, but again, followed by the hardware on that device, the software that's on that device, and so forth. So at this point, what I'm going to do is switch consoles. So we can see what we're able to seed up the system with in Asset Core. So that's going to be available to our Service Core staff. Okay, so here I'm switching over to FootPrints. And again, this is where I'm doing any of the management for my assets. So really at the core, what I need to do first is a discovery so I understand what's in the environment. A lot of people, it being 2014, have utilized some type of tool that does asset management. I myself have utilized Altiris. I've utilized the Dell solution. I've dabbled a little bit with the Microsoft solution, and they all pretty much do the same thing, just a little bit different. The part that was really easy for me to pick up with Asset Core were these wizards. So I didn't have to be an expert. I didn't really have a lot of a learning curve, because here at the bottom it's telling me or stepping me through exactly what I needed to do for each module. So here I'm going to switch this over to the wizard. And again, I said I wanted to do a discovery of everything out in the environment. So what I'm going to do is hit this wizard. And as this is coming up, what you'll see are 11 steps potentially that I would need to enter some type of configuration for. So it's prompting me, and I'm going to enter it, and then it would perform this discovery for me. So allow me to step through and answer some of these questions, but I'll talk through it so you're able to see. On this first screen, it's the discovery type. I'm going to say configurable. And again, this is because I want to discover. I need to know everything that's out in the environment so these inventories can be accurate. Depending on the size of your network, you may have one server, you may have two. Here we're just going to go with one master server. I'm going to switch my second one so I can create a new scan configuration. And you'll notice when I do that, it lights up the ability for me to search for my Windows environment, my Unix environment, devices responding to SNMP, and then my virtualization, depending on the vendor. But what you'll see here, or what you should keep in mind, is there's no agent required on the devices for me to get this information. This is an agentless scan that's occurring and then returning the data back. I'm going to use one of my existing target lists, and then as far as when I want to perform this, I'm going to go ahead and define a schedule. I'm going to hit next. You'll notice now we're on step number 5. I'm just going to accept that default for time purposes on the name for the scan and the scan configuration. Next, I'm at my active protocol. So because I chose the 5 different types of discovery, it's now prompting me for credentials for those various protocols. So by way of an example, the first one is Windows. What I'm doing as a part of this discovery is running WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation queries against these machines that it's trying to access. If I don't enter valid credentials, it will still provide some information. It just won't be that exhaustive hardware software that I'm looking for. But at least at that point, you can see I didn't have access on this box. I need to change the credential. So you'll be prompted to do that for all the protocols that you want to do your discovery on. Again, for time, I'm just going to skip to the next step, and you can see now I'm on 9, selecting a target list. We'll just accept that default, and then my schedule. I'm going to switch over to the frequency so you can see the granularity. So I can set this scan up to happen very often. You can see there every minute, or expand that out to whatever makes sense in your environment. Some accounts or customers, because the inventory can be so gruesome, they end up doing it once a quarter or twice a year. When you have an automated tool in the environment, you can set that up so that your CMDB can maintain accurate information as you're doing your software updates or your patch updates on the devices. Okay, the schedule was the 11th step. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel, and we're going to take a look at this data that was returned. So here on the left, before I hit that, you will notice I can switch to Instant Expert again if I'm not familiar with the tool, and come in here and do a browse inventory, and it will take me exactly where I need to be in the console to see the results of that discovery. So very intuitive in that sense. Here I'm going under Asset Discovery, and I'm going to hit my discovered devices, and I'm going to sort this. Looks like I already have by operating system. And so what you'll see here are several things. One, under operating system, you can see I was able to discover switches, the Macintosh, my remote management system, which happens to be an HP server out there, Linux, Windows. I'm going to scroll down a bit. Should be a phone in there, a printer, and Sun machines. So I can see that by looking at the operating system. I can also see that by the icon. So I can see quickly that it's a Mac. I can see here a couple of switches. I can see the Penguin for Linux, etc. So again, this was all gleaned from just running that quick discovery, no agent required. One other thing that you're going to be able to see from here, I've got my cursor on the 172 device, and what you'll see under the virtual guest count, I have 13 guests or virtual machines hanging off of that server. So when we start thinking about things like doing a change to the .20 or .200 server, I'm impacting 13 other machines when I do that. So you just want to be diligent so that you're making accurate decisions. One of the bullet points on the deck had to do with making informed decisions. So that's going to enable you to do that, again, just by looking at what was discovered out in the environment. The next thing that I'm going to hit is the device topology. And again, these things that I'm showing initially do not require the agent. It's just simply my scan that I did across the 5 different protocols. So under my view, I have 3 different views that I can look at. The asset core, that would be devices out there that have my agent. I can do network, and I can do connectivity. So here I've landed on the connectivity, and really what we have available there are a couple switches, and I'm able to see all the devices hanging off of a given switch. If we compare that to my network, then I can see the various IP addresses that are sitting out there. And we just kind of open up a few of these. But again, you get to see how granular it is really just based upon the different networks that you have.